All right, diving in. We've got this fascinating astrological forecast for tomorrow, March 19th, 2025, from Tarot by High C. Intuition, creativity, even a kind of dreamy vibe. Sounds pretty interesting, right? So we're going to try to break it down, the big astrological energies and how those might actually play out in your day.
Yeah, and one thing that jumps out right away is this idea that tomorrow, the lines between reality and imagination, they might feel a little blurred.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So really tuning in to our intuition is going to be key, absolutely. But, also staying grounded, keeping a good sense of what's real.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So let's get into it. Let's start with the morning. The forecast mentions the Scorpio moon opposing Uranus.
Right.
Now, in astrology, an opposition means they're in opposite signs, creating a sort of tension, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So a Scorpio moon in tension with Uranus, what does that actually, look and feel like?
Well, that kind of alignment, it often sparks this desire, this need for something unexpected.
Yeah.
You might feel, a sudden urge to break free from your routines, or you might even experience kind of a shift in your emotions. Think of it as a restless energy, maybe even like a little inner nudge towards something different. What can also happen with this opposition is it can actually point to, highlight the areas in your life where you feel most restricted, like held back. So it's a good idea to really pay attention to those feelings because they might be showing you some areas where you actually need to make some changes, even if they're uncomfortable initially.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, then as we head into midday, the forecast says the Scorpio moon forms a trine with the sun and Neptune.
Yeah.
And a trine in astrology, that's a harmonious connection.
Right. It's much smoother.
So how does that shift the energy then?
Well, this alignment suggests that you might start to feel a greater sense of, emotional clarity. Your feelings and your inner knowing, your intuition, they might feel more aligned during this time.
Oh, interesting.
Which could lead to some really strong intuitive insights. It's almost like during this time, you might just know things. Yeah. It can be that powerful.
Wow, okay. And then as the afternoon rolls around, the moon moves into Sagittarius.
Right.
And Sagittarius, has such an optimistic vibe.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it brings this kind of naturally optimistic and expansive energy. So you might notice that your focus starts to widen, your perspective becoming, more hopeful, more future-oriented as the day progresses.
Okay, that makes sense. Like the emotional weather starts to clear, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
And then as we move into the evening, the Sagittarius moon forms a sextile with Pluto.
Okay.
A sextile suggests opportunity for growth. What kind of opportunity are we talking about with Pluto involved?
Well, Pluto is the planet of transformation. So this points towards the potential for gaining some really deep insights. You might develop a really transformative understanding of situations you've been thinking about. It's a time for profound clarity.
Interesting. Okay, so this brings us to a major theme that seems to be running through this whole forecast. This conjunction between the sun and Neptune. Now, a conjunction is when planets are together in the sky, and that amplifies their energy. This one is described as an alignment with our higher self, creating a misty dreamscape.
Right.
So break that down for me a little bit. What does that actually mean?
Yeah, this is a really significant alignment. The Sun-Neptune conjunction, it amplifies all things Neptunian. So spiritual insight, vivid dreams, and a really, really strong sense of intuition. It's almost like, think of your higher self as the most intuitive, compassionate, and spiritually connected part of yourself.
Okay.
So this alignment basically amplifies that part of you. It can be a really great time for creative brainstorming, too.
Wow. So it's like our imagination gets a huge boost.
Yeah, it can be really powerful.
But at the same time, the forecast also warns that this conjunction is a, quote, double-edged sword. So why the caution?
Yeah, well, as much as this alignment can unlock all this incredible creativity and intuition, that misty dreamscape, it can also make it harder to see things clearly. It's like, you're walking through fog. So the risk of deception, the risk of confusion, is definitely higher at this time.
Yeah.
And the forecast specifically warns against seeing things through, rose-colored glasses. Everything might look perfect on the surface, but you might be missing some really crucial details.
That's a really good point. So with this potential for things not being as they seem, what practical advice does the source offer for navigating the day?
Well, the advice it gives is very grounded, actually. It really emphasizes caution, especially when it comes to making, financial decisions or just taking information at face value.
Oh, okay.
Really, the key message is to double check everything.
Yeah.
Because, that dreamy Neptune energy, it can be wonderful. It can be beautiful. But this is not a time for blind faith.
Right.
So if you have any really critical evaluations to make, maybe wait a day or two until that haze lifts a little bit.
Oh, that's really good advice. And the forecast also touches on pursuing hopes and aspirations, even though, with Neptune involved, there's that inherent risk of illusion.
Right. It's an interesting point, yeah.
So how do we sort of reconcile those two things?
Well, it raises a really important question, doesn't it? Is it better to take a chance on those dreams, on those big ideas, even if there's a chance that, things might not turn out exactly as you imagined? Or is it better to hold back and potentially regret not trying later on? So it's about finding that balance between your, imaginative drive and a realistic awareness that, not everything always goes perfectly to plan.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Okay, so to kind of recap everything, tomorrow, March 19th, 2025, it's shaping up to be a day with a real emphasis on intuition and creativity.
Yeah.
It sounds like we might start with some, kind of restless, maybe even a little volatile energy. But then, as the day goes on, things could shift into a more optimistic and insightful feel. And with that big Sun-Neptune conjunction, it sounds like, a big part of this day is about finding that balance, embracing your inner world, your imagination, but also staying grounded and, making sure your decisions are based on clear understanding.
Absolutely.
And, thinking about, all of you listening, thinking about how this might play out in your own life, it really comes down to how you can best navigate that blend. How can you tap into that creativity, that intuition, without, getting completely lost in the mist? How do you walk that line?
It's a good question.
Right. A really important question. So as you go through this potentially dreamy, really intuitive day, consider how you can best harness all of that creativity, all of that inner wisdom that you have, while also, keeping a discerning eye on what's happening around you. What aspirations, what big dreams might this imaginative energy inspire in you, and what practical steps can you take to make sure that those pursuits are, rooted in reality? Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.